Tanya Plibersek can't be with us, but in her stead is the lady we've had on before. I love her, Meryl Swanson, who is the Labor Party member for the seat of Patterson that takes in a big chunk of the Hunter Valley. She has 2 daughters. She's a former businesswoman. She has a Bachelor of Commerce and a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Newcastle. She once worked, by the way, for Joel Fitzgibbon and for Hunter Tourism and worked in broadcasting for several years. Then, of course, the lady you all know by now and admire, Conchetta Fierveranti-Wells. Ladies, good evening to you. Now, look, I don't want to throw a bomb into the room, but with all this talk about women in politics and more women representatives needed, the National Party yesterday chose a man ahead of a woman in New South Wales as their leader, when the woman, in the view of most people in the bush, was a vastly superior candidate. Now, this is the embarrassing bit. Conchetta, to you, didn't you just contest for the Liberal Party the presidency of the Senate? What happened?
Alan, I flagged my interest with the outgoing president months ago, but with the change of the departure date, the timeline was compressed. And whilst I was late to the race, I received indications of support right across the chamber. I campaigned on the independence of the presidency and the primacy of the Senate. My conscience remains clear and my integrity intact.
I know.
Alan, I'm not a quota girl. I stood on merit, and yes, I was disappointed, but my conscience is clear.
This is the point, isn't it? You see, Meryl, can I come to you? Forget politics for a moment. This woman here, Conchetta, has been a senator for the last 16 years. She was one of the first politicians to alert the nation to Chinese expansionism in the Pacific. She's the daughter of parents who were both born in Italy. The father arrived in Australia in 1953 to work at the Port Kembla Steelworks. She's got a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Laws from the ANU. I might add, she was also Miss Rugby in 1981 for the ACT Rugby Union. But can I just say to you, Meryl, where does all this noise about women in politics and women in leadership positions end when the chance is offered that women are tipped out? Meryl.
Well, Alan, you said forget politics at the very beginning of the question, and I want to say to you that I worked in talkback radio, which is really often still the bastion of a lot of good blokes, but I can say to you that radio was one of the first forms that gave women education in their homes. They were listening to talkback and radio while their husbands were at work, and Dame Enid Lyons was one such person, and they formed a lot of political views. Now, fast forward to where we are now, Alan, we do need women in leadership positions. We need women in politics because we are half of the
Meryl, the Conservative side. Meryl, the Conservative side. Meryl, the Conservative side have had 2 chances in less than a month of 2 capable and talented women. And they go on, we're going to do something. Anyway.
Well, and they need to, and I mean, look.
Yeah, I agree. But hello, I'm a misogynist if you read all the rubbish that's written about me.
Oh, you're not. Get away.
Conchetta, something that is very important in this climate with all the consequences of coronavirus, charities are fighting to alleviate poverty and mental health right now, and your government, Conchetta, are now wanting to give power to the Charities Commissioner to deregister a charity for a summary offence, which would be failing to close a gate or putting out some flyers or putting something on the Facebook page. I know you've opposed this. What is the Liberal Party up to do in all of this, and what is the status of those regulations?
Alan, as you know, I chair the committee, the Senate Scrutiny of Delegated Legislation, and we are moving to disallow the regulations in the Senate. And we have 3 major concerns. Firstly, there's insufficient guidance about this broad discretion that's going to be given to the ACNC Commissioner to revoke a charity's registration or exercise other enforcement powers over that charity. Secondly, we are concerned that charities will have to have this, what's called reasonable internal control procedures, so that their resources aren't used to actively promote another person's unlawful act.
Sorry to interrupt you. But are these statutory changes going to go ahead?
Well, Alan, my committee is moving for disallowance in the Senate. Senator Patrick is also moving for disallowance in the Senate, so it's now going to be a vote of the Senate as to whether they are allowed or disallowed. And given the concerns that my committee is expressing, we are extremely concerned, and that's why we've taken the step to move for disallowance.
Yeah, well, stick to it. Can I go to you, Meryl? Another issue I notice that Britney Higgins has been made the first visiting fellow at the ANU's Global Institute of Women's Leadership, which is led by Julia Gillard. Is this an appointment based on merit?
I've got no idea, Alan, to be honest with you.
No.
First I've heard of it. Look, but I've got to say that if it's based on courage and pluck, she'd be well, deserving of it. She's got a lot of, she's obviously, got a lot of courage to come forward the way she did. And she really changed the landscape for a lot of women across Australia when she did come forward. So I don't know. I would imagine it is.
Okay.
But look,
well, let me just ask you another question here. Just ask this. During the coronavirus, Meryl, there's been an accelerated take-up on technology. Companies had to go digital or go out of business. But now there's a massive labour shortage in this technology field, and tech companies are reportedly wanting to recruit 60,000 workers in the next 4 years in an exploding digital sector. Meryl, are we educating our kids for the employment world of tomorrow?
No, we're not. And this is one of the big problems. The government has been in power for 8 years. They're in their 9th year, Alan, and we have seen a slashing of all of these important things like apprenticeships. Really, the education system hasn't kept pace with the demands that our economy, that our businesses are needing. And we haven't even put into the mix there nuclear subs. We have got such a shortfall, and we really need to get the education system ratcheted up.
I agree, Meryl. Conchetta, your thoughts, because there must be people out there watching us now who are currently in the workforce, others unemployed, others perhaps underemployed, who would have the skill set or the mindset to enter jobs they may never have previously considered. But I am concerned that we're still educating people for university when those slips of paper might bear no relationship to the tech world of tomorrow. What do you think, Conchetta?
Look, as you know, Alan, I've been critical of universities for not following good business practice and failure to diversify their income streams. So I think apart from a few universities, I am concerned at the lack of agility by many universities to adapt to what are the workforce requirements now, but more importantly, what are going to be the workforce requirements in the future.
Yeah, I don't think we're educating people for the world of tomorrow. And that includes actually educating them how to endure leisure. Just a quick one before you go. There's a story now that people are going to pay a fortune for their meat. Now, at a time when there's this comprehensive, what I call it nonsense, about net zero carbon dioxide emissions, the agricultural industry is responsible for 14% of our greenhouse gas emissions. Indeed, emissions from transport and agriculture equal the 32% of carbon dioxide emissions, the same as for the electricity sector. Now, this is affecting our agriculture sector, and a headline today tells us a shortage in meat supplies to pubs and restaurants and families will face higher prices for their Christmas roast. Well, when are we going to sort of get down to the real stuff? Conchetta?
Alan, I have to say I agree wholeheartedly with the concerns that have been raised by my National Party colleagues, Matt Canavan, Bridget McKenzie and other colleagues. Any plan to take us to net zero must be properly costed and include the effect that it's going to have on our supply line.
Absolutely.
And most especially on agriculture. And more importantly, the public must be made aware up front of the long-term costs and the increases in the future.
Definitely. Can I just finish with Meryl? Because, Meryl, forgive me, you told your party, because you're in the middle of coal country and indeed agriculture country, you told your party, stop scaring, pardon the language, this is Meryl, stop scaring the shit out of the coal industry workers. But that's what they're doing now to agriculture workers. Just a quick one, summing that up, Meryl.
Two things. I disagree with you, Alan. It's not Christmas when the meat's going to be expensive. People can't afford steak now. It is already very expensive. And I actually only had a girlfriend say to me, I can't afford to buy the kids steak like I used to now. So it's already very expensive for people to live. And I know a couple of blokes that have worked on a boning room floor. It is hard work. And we have got to get to a place in Australia where we can have people employed to provide and feed our country, which of course we can, and be able to export those value-added goods. That is going to be the crux. Now, technology will play a part in that, but we've got to be able to do that. It's really important, Alan.
Keep talking, Meryl. Keep talking, because I'll tell you what, a lot of workers are having the stuff frightened out of them. Thank you, ladies, both of you. Always wonderful to talk. We'll talk again next week.